Welcome back to B2B Inspired. Now today we have a special treat because we have Dale Koerner and myself talking about some really relevant topics in marketing at the moment, particularly as we drive towards Q4 and the end of the year and coming into 2026 as well. For those of you who don't know Dale has hosted this podcast before, so you might be familiar with him, but he's our resident marketing strategist and has 10 years of experience building and scaling marketing strategies here at BlueOcean. So we're really highly honoured to have you.
You said it's a special treat. The special treat for me is being in the guest seat here. That's awesome. Looking forward to the conversation. What are we unpacking today?
Well, I thought that the most relevant thing that we could talk about today was how we are moving towards Q4, or the end of Q4, and we're starting to move into planning for 2026. We've had some really interesting conversations with our clients recently around what the strategic priorities should be at this time of year. We've had mixed sentiment around whether it's actually, should we be taking our foot off the gas? Nothing really happens until February, so what should we even be doing? We're not sure about what's going to be happening in April when we've got our financial planning, so maybe we should just back off. Or we're having the conversation that this is the time. Like now is the time to be putting the rubber to the road and thinking about what we're going to be doing next year. So I would love to dig into that today with you.
I think it's such an interesting area. I mean, coming from, both of us are from the UK, and you take like 7 days of holiday over Christmas in the UK, and maybe you do 2 weeks in summer, but otherwise it's pretty much pedal to the metal all the way through. New Zealand has this sort of 9-month financial year where you lose December, you lose January, and then you lose most of March or whatever that crossover month is from end of financial to new financial. And I don't know if I think you've probably seen the same thing as well, but what seems to happen quite often, particularly I think in that sort of SME and in that mid-market space, is you come to the end of your financial year. So let's say it's March, right? You wrap your financial year up in March, and then on the 1st of April, you start working out what you're going to do for the financial year that's just started. So you have a plan by, mid-May, you start putting the bricks and mortar together in sort of June, July, you hit the rubber, the rubber hits the road in August, and then you've got September and October, and then you're sitting there thinking, oh, geez, Christmas is coming, really, should we push? So you've got so few effective months if you take that approach, which is just madness to me.
We are only 6 months in, right? You've made a great point that, November is actually only 6 months into your financial year, so...
Yeah, but like you said, that mindset, I think particularly in B2B as well, where I don't want to call out I don't want to drive more of a wedge between the sales and marketing camps, but like, salespeople aren't selling much in January, generally speaking. That mindset of, the customers aren't back yet. We'll just come back somewhere around the 26th. I'm waiting to see if Lee
pops his head around the corner.
We're recording in the BlueOcean office today, which is really nice.
Yes, we are.
So hopefully I haven't ruffled any feathers. But yeah, it's one of those things that, if I look at some of the really, really smart marketers that we work with, they are the ones who look at January as this moment of like a month of like uninterrupted zen when they can actually think about what's happening in the year ahead. They can look at the plan, they can look at the budget. Yeah, the numbers aren't final, but you know what? You're going to be within 25% either way at this point, right? By the time you're back in January, the race is nearly run. And if it's likely to be derailed massively, then actually you've probably got a problem there as well. So yeah, taking that January and I suppose early February period to actually do the strategic work before you're supposed to be delivering it. If you can get to that point of having a jump on it, that on, let's say, April 1st, you've already got your budget squared away, you already know what the plan of attack is. Suddenly you widen your window from, what we talked about before, of having that sort of really, really, really compressed time in market to put stuff to work, to actually having a full run. You're
not talking about tactics now, are you? You're talking about actual strategic work, because I think that if teams start to think about the tactics at this time of the year, they very well might paint themselves into a corner. But you're talking about building out the strategic direction and thinking about what that looks like in person. Have I got that right?
Yeah. But I think it crosses over into the tactical planning piece as well, because ultimately, if if you don't have the tactics to back your strategy up, then it's just a nice series of well-researched thoughts. But if you can take that approach that says, okay, well, let's do the real strategic review. Let's look at the numbers. Let's see how the customers are behaving. Let's see how the market's behaving, the competition, whatever. Get a good read on how the financial year is likely to play out. Recognizing that by mid-January, if your financial year ends in March, yes, there's probably a few deals that are likely to fall either way, but you're going to be relatively sure of where that's going to end up. And if you're not, you should go and find out. Just as a little ask here, if you are a marketer who doesn't know how the financial year is looking, do the entire discipline a favor and go and find out. But yeah, at that point, you should have a fair idea of what's going to be possible, like financially in the next year as well. So I think you can tackle both halves of the coin. You can definitely get a jump on the strategic direction. Was last year's valid? Does it need to change? What do we need to respond to? What do we need to plan around? But then equally, have a good, better, best, to quote James, your old boss.
Yes.
Approach to tactical planning. Like if you're expecting that you're going to come in at 75% of your year's budget, like from a revenue and performance perspective, plan a 75% plan. Based on having 75% of the dollars that you think you could have. Do the 100%, do the 125. The good, better, best approach, so that when April 1st comes round, you're not going back to the drawing board. You're able to say, no, we've got strategic clarity. Actually, by the end of the month, we've got stuff happening.
So you're already starting to make those moves.
Yeah, in theory. What do you see as are there any roadblocks to that actually happening? Because it's all very good to sit here in our ivory tower and say, do this stuff early, but there are still constraints. Otherwise, it would be more prevalent.
All the constraints, of course, are already meeting the things that you've already said that you're going to do by the end of the year. I think that's I think people see it as a bit of a race to the finish. So people, while they might feel like they could potentially slow down, it is actually there's a long list of things to do and to have done by the end of the year. So it's almost a little bit of a race to the finish as well, I think.
Oh, it absolutely is. And that whole piece around sales taking half of December and most of January off. Sorry, Lee. He's not, by the way. That's not. But that whole piece around, nothing really happens in the second half of December, nothing really happens in January. It does place that huge, I suppose, stress and burden on what can we close in February, what can we close in March. So all of the energy in the headspace is often for those 2 months just on close. And from a marketing perspective, it's what can we do to have more opportunities to close now, which does put a lot of constraint, I suppose, on your available headspace and time. But if you've got the opportunity to have that sort of 2-week run in January to actually take a breath, take a beat and say what needs to happen, I think it's a really good window of time. Whether you do that by yourself or whether you actually recruit help, I think is another one as well, because like you said, you've always got that tension of we had a plan, we had a budget, we need to deliver and we need to execute on that. So you kind of, I suppose there's that whole notion that nothing stops, nothing is allowed to stop while this piece of work happens. And if you haven't carved out the space and time as a business or as a function to actually tackle that strategic piece, then I suppose actually tapping someone on the shoulder who can help you with that is a good idea. So it's an interesting one. It's always an interesting time of year, this sort of November into December and looking to the new financial year.
So firstly, let's unpack that myth a little bit around nothing actually happens over December and January. Let's from what we understand and what we see in the market, because we've got a unique perspective in terms of the scope of businesses that we work for, and also there's some recent research published around people calling to attention the fact that actually people are often on their phones. Scrolling.
Yep. I suppose that there are two halves to that question. One is the marketing access piece, which is, can we actually put something to market or to an audience in a way that will land while they're at the beach or at the batch or on the boat or whatever that looks like. And then there's that other piece around, I suppose, whether sales actually happen and whether they don't. I think what it comes down to there is nuance. At the end of the day, if you're going to be running a real hard and fast sales promotion targeted at business owners and heads of procurement that runs between the 21st of December and the 5th of January, then yes, you're wasting your budget. You're basically putting dollars on a bonfire at that point. But if you look at a different level or a different stage of the sales journey, the sales funnel, for a lot of people, that's a time of I suppose casual introspection. It's that time of year where yes, you're doing family things, but equally on your mind is, what are we doing for the year ahead? What might we do different? How could we see things from a different lens? So if you're addressing from a marketing execution perspective at that higher, not yet problem aware, yet aware, not possibly solution aware level, then actually there's opportunity to add value there. And so long as you come at it, I suppose, from the perspective of how can we add value to this person in a time of introspection, don't go radio silent.
I just had exactly the same conversation with Nicola. I actually asked her this question. Okay. So Nicola O'Rourke, for context for the listenership, is a previous podcast that we recorded. So do go listen to that. It's fantastic. And I asked her this exact same question. So she is across several boards. She's involved with New Zealand Trade and Enterprise as a beachhead advisor. So she has a great perspective on this. And she said, don't sit in the boardroom and work on your numbers. Get out there and talk to your customers and ask, how can we remove friction over this time of year? How can we add value? What are they feeling at the moment? They're obviously probably feeling quite stressed. And so instead of spending heaps of time as a marketing department figuring out what corporate gifts we can send out, start asking the question, where can we remove friction over this period of time for our customer base in a way that is memorable and that adds value? I thought that was a fantastic answer.
It's such an interesting angle. I really like that. I also enjoy corporate gifts.
Yes.
Throw the baby out with the bathwater on that one completely, because who doesn't love a good hamper and a bottle of whatever? Or for the one person who's listening who will get this, a rotating cheese board. But that piece around friction is such an interesting one, because this time of year, particularly again if you're sort of in that sort of small and medium market space, particularly if you do a lot of if you're in a service-based business where your ability and your time in the day to either produce or work on a project is your ability to charge and bill, everyone's looking down the barrel of 3 weeks without any work being delivered, which means cash flow. You want to make sure that you're paying your staff over that period of time. I mean, we were talking to a client the other day in the construction sector, and they said that they've got this real issue that regularly, if you invoice on first of month for payment on the 20th of the month, that payment on the 20th of December just almost never happens in some trades and some industries. So there's that knock-on effect of, we're not getting paid, so we've got no cash running through the business, which means we're being risk-averse and we don't make decisions now. And if you look at that from through the marketing lens, and you apply, maybe price is part of the remit of the marketer's skill set, then if you as a provider or as a business have the ability to actually be flexible on some of those things like payment terms, you might find that you can actually light sales up. It will still happen within the same financial year, so they're still going to reflect on your end-of-year numbers, but you've got the ability to actually, I suppose, expedite sales that otherwise would be deferred, and you'd be in that sort of decision paralysis state. If you can make a decision in December for a tranche of work that you're selling that can happen in January, but that your customer is afraid of the cash flow piece. One of the best pieces of advice that was ever given to me from a sales leader was, I was working in the marine industry, and he used the phrase that if someone is able to put down even a tiny amount of money to secure something, so if you've got $100 of someone's money, there's 100 reasons why they'll spend the rest of it. So if you actually look at that from a perspective of, okay, cool, well, what are the ways that we can remove friction and remove fear from the way that we structure what we sell, so that we can, for example, secure that $100 of, metaphorical deposit in December to secure the rest of it. It just means that you're actually able to add value. You can come at it from a helpful space, and keep things moving when they otherwise might not.
Yes, I think you've hit the nail on the head with momentum, isn't it? Because a lot of marketing is consistency and momentum and how you show up day after day. And you just can't have 2 weeks where you don't do anything.
when nothing happens, yeah. I mean, there's definitely like there is a period of time there when you've got to be choiceful and selective about what it is that you're doing, and of course take a break. Go and get some sand between your toes and salt in your hair and whatever else like that. That's so important. But the world doesn't have to stop because of the assumption that it does. Yeah. How you and I are quite different when it comes to the way that we approach certain things. Like you're a very I don't want to paint myself into a corner here. You're a really structured. You're a really methodical. Like you, put it this way. If there were, like, in the context of this conversation, you're the person who's much more likely to have pre-organized the planning in January than I am. Yes. I'm probably more the person who will, think along the way while they're out and doing things. But if the context of the conversation here is how can marketers, how can businesses actually make that early calendar year into financial year piece work, what would you do as a marketer?
I think that we have definitely a complementary skill set, because then I can come in behind the creative and kind of like to make things happen. I'm definitely more action. I definitely take a very action orientated approach to doing this. So I like to enjoy my time off and make sure that everything is consolidated and finalized by the end of the year. And I like to make sure that the team is set up for success as well. So I think that I would be, if I worked in an in-house marketing team, I'd be really focused on the people and what they wanted to achieve over the year. I would take a bit of a retrospective approach, but I would definitely be looking at what the customers are saying, what the sentiment is in market, and how we can remove those friction pieces. Huge fan of design thinking as well. So I'm a huge fan of asking the question, how might we? Which I know you are as well. So I'd be using this time to strategically think very strategically about what we will do in the when we come back in January. I don't want anybody coming back and sitting at their desk and not knowing what to do. That would be something that I would try and actively avoid.
No, that's interesting. I mean, if you look at that example, coming back earlier in the conversation to Nicola's comment around maybe spend less time working out the corporate gifts and more time working out how to reduce friction. I think there's probably an opportunity in there as well for if you are going down that sort of corporate gifting route as well, to actually use that as an opportunity to gain some customer insights. I think the value of a lunch with a client in December, which value for everyone, but it's the opportunity to exchange, have that retro, see what's happened in the year past, talk about what's happening in the year ahead. And that also is then giving you some of those thoughts to percolate on over the time you are out, as well as the insights to then start building some of that strategy work from as well. So, not that we have a crystal ball, and forgive me if I'm hijacking with asking you questions, but what do you see 2026 looking like?
Now, I am a natural optimist, and I think that I always tend to err on the sunnier side of things. So while I don't love the phrase "we'll thrive in 2025," because a lot of businesses haven't done, I am really optimistic for 2026. I'm really excited about where the AI piece is going and how we can bring more efficiency to our work, but also where the human in the loop sits with that as well. I feel like I've just immediately gone off topic, but that's exactly what I'm excited about seeing in 2026. Businesses and our clients in particular kind of getting the sentiment of continued optimism. We've got some things that are changing in the economy, so things are on the lift. So I'd like to see a little bit more proactive investment, I think, in 2026 into technology, into the people, and into the way that we do business as well.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I skew on the side of optimist as well.
For marketers, we've got to. It's just a trait.
Isn't it our job to just manifest?
Right,
manifest positivity. It's very interesting. I hadn't heard the phrase "thrive in 25" for a little while, because I remember there was, if you look at that sort of rhetoric, there was survive till 25
Yes.
in 2024 than there was thrive in 2025, and
Yes.
actually that's been more like, for a lot of businesses, survive. It does feel like we're nudging closer towards a bit of a turnaround there. There are still some, I suppose, some of the economic markers that are not there yet, but some green shoots there, I think. The AI piece, I think, is really interesting. Just into, I suppose, across the whole spectrum, really. You know, there's lots of opportunity there, I think, for marketers to put themselves at the center of how AI adoption happens within the four walls of a business. And it's like we really set out to talk about AI, but I suppose you can't not talk about AI.
No, you can't. It's having such a huge impact. And we are very much in the early phases. We're just doing some work with a client currently around, you know, what's AI's place in a business and whereabouts is it sitting, and talking about the Gartner Pace Layering System, which talks about AI currently as a system of innovation. And while you're in innovation stage, you're in kind of that uncertainty piece. You don't quite know how it's adding value to the business, but there is a stage gate to get through until you get to a system of differentiation. And once you cross that bridge, it starts to become a competitive advantage. I think companies need to move from innovation state to differentiation state quickly. Would be my read on it.
It's a really good framework for thinking about it. I like that, actually. But yeah, I think you've seen that adoption curve. You've got some of those early adopters who are possibly starting to actually embed some demonstrable value from it. There's a lot of people tutoing, which is fine. It's good. I mean, it's good to have that kind of healthy exploration of it. There are some really, really clear areas, I think, where it's going to add a huge amount of value to the customer centricity with which marketers and businesses approach the world. I think one of the finest use cases in our world is adopt the voice of the customer. So having it as a sparring partner that is seeing the world through the eyes and the lens of your customer, of your target market, and using it as being able to stress test, stress test ideas. Does this work? What could work better? And I suppose shining some light on the blind spots that we all naturally have. So from a strategy and from an execution perspective, so much value in just having that AI in persona, as I think they're being referred to now in the room.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so I think do you think that could be a key takeaway from this conversation, is that during this time, if there is a bit of space, to do some research and spend some time looking at the areas where AI will add value, because there's a lot to learn. There's so many different things happening and different people to learn from. So yeah, what do you think? It's easy to get bogged down, isn't it?
It is. But if you look at some of the ways that you can use some of those tools, like while we're having this conversation, I have Comet, the browser from Perplexity, trawling through Facebook groups, looking at comments, looking at pain points, and looking at perspectives from those threads of conversation. It could be LinkedIn, it could be Instagram, it could be whatever. But that level of detail and being able to say, okay, orientate me to what this group of people is feeling as pain. You can do that now robustly, quickly. It's not going to synthesize an answer out of nowhere. It's actually going to go through and look at real interactions with real people and pull a response from that. So I think areas like that have just got so much value to bring. And they're not scary.
No,
it's not
easy.
marketers being replaced. It's actually being able to say, do you know what, I can get some really good customer insight really, really freaking quickly that we can put our faith in, because it's not hallucinating worldviews from a persona that it knows nothing about in New Zealand, which is also a challenge, I think, in that AI space, is the body of data that models have to go by, I think will inherently skew more global, but it can be done.
How exciting for Lee and sales, to get that level of insight. You could only dream of it, couldn't you, really?
You got stalked this week. You got a cold call, didn't you?
I got a cold call.
And I'm sure that was I'm sure your contact details weren't mined by a human.
Quite possibly, yes.
Yeah.
They did know my name and my number, and
Yeah.
called me in the middle of something very important, which I was very cross about. So.
Yeah, I think there's a piece in there about using it for good, and I don't think that was a use case of using AI for good. But yeah, it's an interesting space for sure. Yeah. What? Sorry, you've got questions. Sorry, I'm just doing my naturally curious thing and just poking a product.
No, poke and prod. Really, I think that I think listening to this at this time of year is so important. Like just having using this as an opportunity to have a bit of a reflective moment around what people should, not what people should be doing, but like how can we help each other as a team to grow and develop through 2026. I think that's what I'm interested in, and I think that what I'd like to talk to.
I think as much as anything that piece around this time of year, the mindset that people sort of carry into it. I think it's very easy to fall into paths that have been trodden by other people's feet. You look at the sugar rush addiction in retail of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and you've got that. Well, we have to show up because that's what the industry does, even though we're all pissing margin into the wind. And it's just that if you don't challenge some of the assumptions and some of the behaviors around that, I think it's very easy to march to a rhythm that you don't necessarily have to. And I think that mindset of New Zealand shuts down, nothing will happen, is sales may not be happening, buyers might be away on holiday, but that doesn't mean that you can't be doing really, really, really important work at this time of year. And the beauty of it is doing it without some of those distractions. I love the first week back of January. I mean, just from an agency perspective, all of our clients are on holiday, most of them. They're still away. And it's one of those times of year when actually you can take a step back without the pressure of having to deliver on X, Y, and Z, because you've got that little bit of extra, space to be able to actually take the helicopter view of the world, the account, the business, whatever it is that you're looking at, and do that high level planning. So yeah, I'd say that would be like my takeaway at this time of year is actually just think critically. Don't make the assumption that everything shuts. Don't make the assumption that you have to necessarily do the same things that you've always done in January, March, and February. Got the order wrong there. We'll just write in your calendar. Why not? So great time of year to actually challenge assumptions, think ahead, and see if you can't give yourself a jump on the next financial year. Absolutely.
What are some of the your favorite things that you've seen clients talk about and do recently that's really piqued your interest and you want to?
It's a good question.
Let's put some examples to what we've spoken about, without giving too much away.
No. I don't want to use the phrase here that I've got a few pet favorite clients because. Well, I do. Let's face it. We all do. We all have the people that we really, really resonate and really, really gel with. And there are two marketing managers that I can think of in particular in the context of this conversation, who they knew exactly what the roadmap looked like for the year ahead, for their financial year ahead, which started in April. They knew that by mid-February. They had that absolutely well and truly locked in. And if I look at what both of those marketing managers, departments, and businesses have achieved over this year, man, they've torn strips out of what they set out to do. There hasn't been that period of the coupler effect of starting late, finishing, getting into market late, and not having the time to kind of do things justice. One of them has, among many things, they've built a podcast themselves, which has gone absolutely gangbusters, and it's a really, really good strategic lever for them. It's a thought leadership piece. It's a trust building piece. That's been really, really, I think, exciting to see that come together. In terms of other things, how about you? I'm going to put the question back at you to buy myself time to think.
That's a good strategic tactic. When I think about the companies that I'm working with, I work with a lot of companies who are on, we're not doing those big kind of strategic pieces. We're thinking about service line positioning at a deeper level. So I think what we're thinking about at the moment in terms of my workload is where are the areas of opportunity coming into 2026? We've taken a really, really good look at what the macro environment's going to look like over the first quarter of the year. And we've made some pretty big strategic bets around where that opportunity is going to live and breathe. And now, right now, tactically, we're building the assets ready for that. So we've identified something that we know is going to happen in market, or pretty certain around what's going to happen in market, and we've done the work up front, or we're doing the work up front to make sure that gets as much rocket fuel under it as it can when it happens next year.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, it's always an exciting time of year. I mean, it's nice to be able to look back. It's nice to be able to look forward. And yeah, I think. We said that as marketers, we're always optimistic, but yeah, definitely optimistic for where things head in 2026. I mean, across the board, would love to see some of those, I suppose, economic markers starting to turn around. New Zealand heading in a good, positive direction. And the other piece there as well is that, we touched on it with AI, but what does that make possible for a country that has a productivity issue? If you look at it from whether it's manufacturing, whether it's professional services, what can this country do with that as a rocket up its ass?
Yes, I love these big questions that go out to the ether, and I'm sure that I hope that Alistair is listening and answering those questions within their heads, because oftentimes your gut as a marketer is such an important thing. Yes, of course we use data, of course we use customer insight, but sometimes your gut can be really important as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, you have to listen to it. If it's gurgling, there's a reason. It's almost lunchtime. It's gurgling.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Well, that's lunchtime.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to sit here this time next year and actually see what's happened in the year, how things have progressed, and if any of those, I suppose, bets that we thought would, that we've made, and things that we thought would happen have. So interesting, exciting time ahead. We'll see how the year pans out.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'd love to sit here in the next year, or maybe even the next quarter, and just have a little retrospective on whether we think that actually the things that have happened, things that are happening are actually happening and have happened, and what we see to be the future. Yeah. I'd love to get Lee on as well and talk to Lee about what his sales perspective is. I think there's so much value in having marketers sit together and talk, but I'm interested in what Lee would say.
Yeah, the guys at Indicator will be running the Mood of the Sales Leader as well this time of year as well,
report.
Which is always a great report, great read every year, just to see what their outlook and perspective looks like. I've got one last question, because I know that you are going on a bit of a tiki tour around the South Island over the new year.
Yeah.
What books are you going to read? And this is not like Freyja, what are you going to be reading over Christmas? I'm just
so you're going to put me on
curious.
The spot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I am going to be reading? Is The Witcher series.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, I am. So I'm going to take that. So I'm obviously a huge fan of Henry Cavill and The Witcher Netflix show.
Have you seen the latest series?
I have seen the latest series. It's
not the right dude.
It's different. Yeah, Liam Hemsworth. So he's stepped into he stepped into Geralt's.
I didn't fancy him as much. I won't lie. I didn't have the same.
You can say that. I can't say that.
Yeah, I didn't have that same sort of gosh, aren't you a man crush that I had on Henry Cavill.
I have to admit, I binge watched the whole series, and I am not a binge watcher, and I don't watch much TV, but I just had to know what happened, because this story has me hooked. The whole world has me hooked.
Yeah.
And that's why I have to read the books, because now I've got faces to add to the characters, and I have to know what happens to Ciri. So that's what I'm going to be taking.
That's what you're going to be reading. I like that. That's excellent. Good.
Yeah, so nothing too intense. I think I'm going to take it.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, you've earned that break, I'd say.
What are you going to be reading? I know you're a fan of fantasy.
I do enjoy fantasy. I think if I look at areas that interest me and where I see, like work-wise, where I see a bit of curiosity, I'm really curious to see where the world of B2B and behavioral economics intertwine. Not just because I love Rory Sutherland and find him thoroughly entertaining on a podcast, but there's something in that territory which I think as yet feels untapped in our world. So I don't know anything exists yet, but if I can find something around that, I might spend a couple of afternoons reading through some of that stuff if I can find a bit of downtime.
Well, if anybody has a recommendation and is listening, please send us it on LinkedIn, because we would absolutely love to talk about this. I think that I completely agree with you, completely untapped area. I think you're fantastic at it. I think you've already got those sort of threads of understanding and empathy. So I think that you would be great to, once you develop your learning, let's have a podcast and let's talk to you about it.
Yeah, and also props for the audience engagement piece there. That was just so unrehearsed, but like so on point.
Oh,
yeah. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, very natural.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much. That was such a great conversation. Was there anything else that you'd like to add, and anything else that you think that people should be thinking about at this time of year, apart from also having a break? I do want to prerequisite the fact that, while I do love things happening, please take a break, because that's where the creativity comes, right? That's where actually the magic happens, is when our minds are rested. And I have been reading a bit about sports psychology at the moment, and there's kind of this phrase around there that's relax to win. Like when you're on the playing field, the best performance usually comes when your mind and your body are relaxed and in the flow of things. So I do encourage everyone to go and take a bit of a break as well.
Oh, there's so much value in that. I mean, if you look at the pace of a day in the life of whether you're a business owner, whether you're a marketer, whether you're a GM or CEO, whatever the role is, speed is the thing, and constancy is one of the things that I think that defines the way that we work. But having space and time to actually slow down, it does give you a completely different perspective. I mean, we compared notes the other morning. I remember we came in and had a chat, and you'd just been watering the plants in the garden, and I admitted that I actually talked to my bonsai trees most morning and asked them how they're doing. That little ritual of decompress, analog environment, slow down, just make space for that, as well as trying to be a good marketer and good at your job.
Yes, yeah. There's value and balance for sure.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because so many of our podcast guests that we've had on have echoed that as well.
Yeah. I've got one actual last question.
Yeah.
How have you found the journey of stepping into the role of podcast host?
Oh, well, it's not. I hope that we will share podcast hosting. I love it.
Yeah.
I think this is a fantastic forum I kind of see the podcast as a catalyst of connection to our community. We've got this fantastic resource that's available to us to have a conversation about very real things that happen. I think podcasting is a wonderful medium.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
And we've been so lucky with the type of people that we've been able to sit down and talk to. And you've had some fantastic conversations with some really interesting people who you leave and you think, wow, you're cool. You are a really interesting, good human, and I'm glad that we got to spend the time. So
right, and we talk about this often, how the New Zealand business community can feel a little bit fragmented. We are in Tauranga, we work with a lot of businesses in Auckland. We spend a lot of time in Auckland as well. How do we be a bridge between not only businesses but also people, agencies alike? It's another method of bringing everyone together after a very difficult couple of years in terms of companies having to put more distance between themselves. I think it just makes us stronger as a community.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think that's just a lovely parting thought.
Yeah, there you go. All right, thank you so much.
Cool. See you next time.
See you next time.